Hello, thank you for joining me on Friday the 9th of April. I thought it would be appropriate for our thought for today to just reflect on the sad news that we heard this morning concerning the death of His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. 99 years of age, almost 100. I believe he was going to be 100 in June, just a couple of months away, and that would have been a wonderful milestone to reach. Sadly, it was not to be, and he seems to have died peacefully earlier this morning. So our heartfelt condolences and sympathy, our thoughts and prayers go to the Queen, royal family, and members of his close family. And of course he will be mourned by countless millions throughout this country and beyond. I appreciate he wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but nevertheless he was a tremendous help to the Queen, and they were together for so long. He will certainly be missed by her and by others close to them as well. You know, it's now coming out and we're being reminded of just what a full life he led. He was very active as a young man. He was a sportsman, gifted sportsman. Of course, he had a distinguished service career in the Royal Navy, serving in the Second World War. He was the longest serving consort to the monarch that this country has ever had. And of course, his life was a life given over to service as well. Oh, in one sense, yes, it was a privileged life, but a life with responsibilities and service, which he never shirked. So we know as well that his background, his family background, was a Greek one. I think he was born in Corfu, Greek island, and it just made me think. I don't want to get all deep and philosophical about this, but the ancient Greeks in particular, they had this philosophy about life, and they said it was much better, much more to be desired to have a short and useful and glorious life rather than a very long and uneventful and uninteresting life, if you like. Well, I think the Duke kicked that particular thought into touch, as it were, because he did not have a short and glorious life, nor did he have a very long and uneventful life. He fused the two. His was a long life and a very eventful life at the same time. But 99 years have come and have gone, and again we're all reminded of the brevity of life. Even at 99 years, life is short in many ways. And it made me think about what the Bible calls redeeming the time, how we spend our time. You know, Duke of Edinburgh spent his time in a life of service, and we can do the exact opposite of that as well. We can lead a very selfish life, lives that are interesting, but still that can be very self-centered. I know some of you have heard this story before, but I met a very interesting chap on the last walk that I did in Spain. I've been able to enjoy a couple of sabbaticals during my pastorate at Larbert, and on both occasions I've decided to just go for a long walk in Spain, walk from the bottom up to the top. And I had the opportunity to do that again just a few years ago, 2018, and I met a very interesting chap again, who I've already told some of you about. It was an Italian chap, a young man, and his name was Marco. And I'd been walking on the road for a number of weeks, coming up from the south. I forget how many miles I'd done, a couple or 300 miles or so. And I was feeling rather chuffed, rather proud of myself that I was still able to keep on going, hadn't collapsed in any way just yet. But anyway, I was out one day. I got absolutely drenched in a thunderstorm and had to plod on through the open country until I came to a little village where there was one of these continental cafes, you know, where you can sit outside. Well, by the time I got to the village, the rain had gone away, the sun had come out, and I was taking all my bits and pieces and draping them over the wall and the chairs where I was sitting outside this little cafe. And I saw appear over the horizon in front of me someone in exactly the same situation. It was Marco, and we got chatting because he was coming along and he was trying to get dried out as well. And we got talking, and of course, as walkers do, we asked each other how far we had come. And I was feeling rather chuffed, as I said, rather proud of myself. And I was able to tell Marco that I'd started in Seville and been walking for weeks, and, you know, somehow I was still going. And I had to ask Marco to explain this a couple of times to me because I didn't take it in fully the first time. But he had literally been walking from China. Okay, he'd been on the road for 4.5 years, working his way along to pay for his food and keep and so forth. But nevertheless, he'd been walking for over 4 years, and he had arrived in Spain from China. Now again, if you know your geography, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, all those countries that we hear in the news, he had walked across them all, and he'd finally arrived in Spain. A very, very interesting chap to talk to, a great raconteur. You can imagine the stories that he had to tell. But I asked him what prompted this walk of his, and he said it was quite simple. He was in university in Bologna, north of Italy, and he got to thinking about his life and about time. And he didn't want to give his time away. He didn't want to give his time to an employer or to anybody else. He wanted his time for himself. Now, I know it's very selfish, as I said, but very interesting at the same time. So he decided just to drop out of university and start walking. And he had been walking ever since. He dropped out of university in his early 20s. He was now 46, and he was still going strong, just walking all over the world. His entire earthly possessions in his backpack. So there's an example of a completely selfish life, but nevertheless, the life of a person who understands the value of time. We only have one life, friends. It's been said that we only have one shot at this life. And if we use that metaphor, we've got to make sure that we make that shot count. So how do we do that? You can't live your life completely selfishly. And you have to live a life, well, we've to redeem the time. That's what the Bible describes it as. If I can just move to conclusion by reading Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 to 17. See that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. Now, circumspectly just means we've got to be aware of what's around us. Circumspectly means literally to look around. So we've to walk aware of our circumstances, aware of our situation, aware of the life around us, because, verse 16, the days are evil. So we've to redeem the time because the days are evil. And we have to understand what the will of the Lord is. Friends, that to me seems the perfect balance of life. Okay? We live a full life. We live a life for the Lord, worshipping and serving Him. It's a life of service, not a selfish life. And we do it all according to God's will. Redeeming the time, not completely selfishly for ourselves, but for the Lord and for others. And we don't want to get to the end of life and look back with regrets, saying we could have done so much more, or we should have reprioritized things. I'll just end with a a rather lame anecdote, or a illustration rather. And I know whether you're watching football matches or not, I'm sure on the news or at sometimes you've heard the captain of a team or the manager being interviewed at the end of a match, and he's delighted with the performance of the team, and they say something like, "I'm so happy, I'm so proud of the boys, they left everything out there." And what the manager means by that is that they left everything out on the pitch. They didn't hold anything back. They gave it their best shot. Nothing more can be asked of any team or of any person than just to give it their best shot. Friends, as Christians, let's redeem the time, and in this life, let's give it our best shot for the Lord. As I said, a thought prompted by a life of service from the Duke of Edinburgh. He has gone from this life into his next life, and I trust, I hope that he has had time to make peace with his Maker, to be reconciled with the Lord through faith and trust in the Lord Jesus Christ. I believe that is the example set by the Queen, his wife, and I hope that her witness to him means